All right, so today we have a Toyota 4Runner, two-wheel drive, with 17-inch wheels, and we're going to change the rear brakes on this car. It's not been braking quite right, and I already replaced the front brakes a couple weeks ago. So we're going to be using the PowerStop Z36 Extreme braking system. And the main reason why I'm going to put this system is because it's got a little bit better pads, and they come with the slotted and drilled rotors. So one of the tricks to changing the rear brakes is that you cannot use the emergency brakes to keep the car sort of stopped. So I am going to chuck the front wheels to keep it from moving or shaking a little bit. I am going to unscrew the cap on the brake fluid reservoir. What this is going to do is going to allow the fluid from the brake to flow back into the reservoir. Before we jack up the rear end of the car, we're just going to loosen these bolts a little bit. The only thing we want to do is just get them just slightly loose so that it'll be easier to take them off when the wire's off the ground, when the tire's off the ground. This is a 13/16 inch socket, but also a 22 or 21 millimeter should work fine. All right, so now they're loosened. So now let's get the car jacked up. So I'm going to leave both the jack and the jack stand in place just to be safe, and we'll go from there. All right. So now that the car's jacked up, and we can take the tire off, we're gonna make sure that the bolts are still loose. Somehow they sometimes they tighten up a little bit when you move them. So they are. So I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Okay, so now that we got the tire out, we're gonna take the caliper out, and the caliper is held by two bolts. This guy right here and this guy right there. These are both 17 millimeter sockets that we need to use. So I'm gonna use a little bit of a breaker bar. You could use a ratchet, I guess, if you wanted to, depending on how tight they are. All I really want to do here is just get them loose like that, and the bottom one do the same thing, which is gonna get them loose just like that. Now we can use the ratchet and get them out a little bit quicker. So we get one bolt out. I'm going to try to keep them separated so that they go back in the same spot that they came out of. This one came out really easy. Alright, this one came out super easy. And now I'm going to take the caliper out. And here it is. So for now, I'm just going to hang it. I'm going to hang it somewhere here. There. And now I'm going to take the pads out. Is the inner pad there, and I'm going to use the center pad to push this piston back. And there it went all the way back. So we're done with that step. Okay, so we're good there. The cylinder's all the way back. So I'm gonna go ahead and rehang it, and we'll go to the next step. So now we got the inner pad out, so I'm gonna keep it separate. And now I'm gonna take the outer pad out with a little screwdriver. It should come right off. There you go. I want to keep them separate so that I'll know which shape goes on the outer and which shape goes on the inner side. Alright, so now we're going to take two 17mm bolts that are back here that hold this in place. I'm going to use the breaker bar just to get them loose. God, yeah, these are tight. And then one on the bottom. That was not so bad. So now I'm gonna get the wrench. All right, so I'll put now 17mm socket and a little wrench, 3/8 inch wrench. So let's see if I can convince these guys to come out. Uh-oh. This one came out pretty easy. Both bolts are the same size, and even though they're interchangeable, I'm just going to keep them separate just to keep everything kind of clean. And now the holder came out, so we're going to go ahead and give it a good clean and start changing parts. After we get the brake pad holder out, we want to take all the hardware out. There. We want to take this one out, this one out, and that one out. We're also going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a clean, just to make sure that the new hardware will sit in right. Man, that was dirty. Okay, we're going to take the new hardware and we're going to try to lubricate a little bit with some synthetic brake parts lubricant. We're going to use the same thing on the pads. This kit does come with a lubricant already, but I have this one already open, so I don't want to use too much. I'll be able to save it for another time. Alright, so they're all on. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and put the pads in. All the pads in this particular car for the rear brakes are the same, so they're kind of easy to identify. The way that we're going to put these things in is kind of like this. We're going to sneak it in into the slot, and we're going to put it in like that. On this other side, we're going to do the same. Put them in and give them a turn like that. So there they are. Now we're going to go ahead and put just a little bit of lubricant, brake parts lubricant on both sides. We're going to do this on both sides of the brake pads, and we're just going to spray it around so that the cylinder has a smooth place to push against. And I'll do the same. You can't see the back, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm just kind of spraying it around. So there it is. There is the assembly. And now we'll put it back into the brake. So now we got, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to clean a little bit the rotor before we put it in. This particular rotor has slots and drilled holes, so it's supposed to brake a little bit smoother, but you can see it's got some residue from the manufacturer. So we're going to try to clean it. We're going to use just brake parts, brake cleaner on it, and we're just going to try to be as diligent as we can in cleaning it, all the braking surfaces. And of course, this particular one, we need to clean the inside because that's where the emergency brake engages. So now we're back on the car. So we're going to go ahead and take the rotor out. So there it is. The rotor's out. It's got pretty uneven wear. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and put the new rotor in. There you go. And we're going to help it by just putting a couple of these lug nuts in place, just so that we can keep it in the right spot. Okay. Okie dokie. So we're good there. Now we're going to put the brake pad holder on. And put the 17mm bolts back on. And I'm going to set these things up at 80 foot-pounds. There. And there they are. And now we're going to put the caliper back on. There. Okay. We're going to do the same thing in the back. Okay, and there you are. The brakes are changed.